Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. We've had Bills Chiefs, we have had Texans against the Ravens. Now it's time for the Buccaneers against the Lions. I'm, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and I'm joined by two guests, one newbie and one returning guest. Our returning guest is our Lions fan who was on last week for our Lions game preview in the wildcard round. Back with us today for the divisional round preview is Aaron Fletcher from Sleep at Work. Aaron, how are you?
Still riding the waves of our first playoff win in 32 years. I'm about as high as you can get. Snoop Dogg's jealous, put it that way.
I mean, yeah, first of all, thank you for making us now the team with the biggest drought. I want to thank you for that. And also, I
You're
want to
very
thank
welcome.
you for his picks.
You're very welcome. And
um,
as I said to you on Monday morning, you can keep that record. That's yours. You can have it.
I was convinced he was going to go to the Raiders if he won a playoff game, but that hasn't happened. Now, our other fan is a newbie. With us today for the first time is Buccaneers fan Ross. Ross, how are you?
I'm not bad. Thanks for having me.
Well, great to have you on. If you don't know the story, Ross is a very late comer to the episode. He literally agreed to come on about 10 minutes ago. So fair play to him for coming on. And yeah, should be a good episode. Now, Ross, you are a newbie, and we ask all our newbies the same question we always do, is why your team? So for you, Ross, why as a UK fan did you pick the Buccaneers?
I was in the pub watching the Red Zone with a friend, and this is 2019 before, so I never knew what I was anything about the NFL or American football. And watching the Red Zone and Tampa Bay score a touchdown, it cuts and it shows you the pirate ship with the cannons firing. And I went, "They got a pirate ship in the stadium? That's pretty cool." And then they scored another touchdown like 20 minutes later, half an hour later, and it showed you and I went, "That's my team." And I was laughed at the time, but 4 months later in the off season, we signed Brady, went on to win a Super Bowl, and the rest is history.
That is actually perfect timing because literally, like the Buccaneers fans who have been, watching this team for 20 odd years, or maybe 15 years, they did win it in 2003, but a lot of years of pain. So,
Yeah,
what luck that is! I bet you thought it'd be every year like that, wouldn't you? When you your first year fully watching the NFL, your team wins it all.
I have seen us win back to back to back the divisional titles and a Super Bowl, so it's been pretty nice so far.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can only dream of that. Someone who's been a fan for 12 years, only ever seen us play three playoff games and to lose all of them. Never seen us win a division. Yeah, I can only look on in envy. But yeah,
Not
Aaron,
for everybody, is it?
well, for Aaron, you have got that sort of pain almost dealt with a little bit now. You won your first division title in 30 years, and you've won your first playoff game in 32 years, as you mentioned before. Just talk us through your reaction. How are you feeling? Because obviously, you're going to be in a game on, or finish at 4 a.m. roughly. The game finished. You must have just been on the all-time ultimate high.
Yeah, and as most people know now, I watch most games with a couple of friends from over in the States who've been Lions fans from birth via Discord. So I kind of got to I I will always say, as much as I can truly appreciate this, I've been through a lot of the pain as a Lions fan. I haven't been through the worst of it with like the 0-16, but I've been through a lot of pain with this franchise. So it feels extra special, but I think one of the best parts was spending and having that moment with those people, which it was incredible. Seeing how they reacted to the first the first time we brought out the victory formation and then the wave after it, and I think for me, I struggled to sleep. I was on like adrenaline, so happy. But again, I think more than anything for me, yeah, it was all of that, but it was spending it with people who I love a lot, but also people who know this more than I do and probably deserve this more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same as well. I mean, I've been a fan 12 years. I know that if the thing happened and we won a Super Bowl, I know there's a lot of fans that have been, fans a lot longer than me. That most of my friends in the fan club and in the Dolphins fan club I'm in, they're all of the Marino era, of that Channel 4 80s era. So Marino basically recruited, I think, most Dolphins fans in the UK, and I think they have been through it, even with Marino, even more pain than I have. So yeah, I think me and you have similar sort of stories. And it must have been so great, when they were playing Lose Yourself on stage and Eminem was there in the crowd. Must have been a
They
fantastic.
were all there.
Yeah,
They were all
Calvin
there.
Johnson, Barry Sanders. I would say Kid Cudi was it? Big Sean or something was
Big
there.
Sean.
Yeah.
You had, they were all of the Detroit celebs were out. It was that, and I remember I think I turned my TV up to 2, like the volume was at 2, and I was kind of looking over my shoulder at my wife who was fast asleep, thinking it's too loud. Like with the crowd, it's too loud. Just you felt the atmosphere, and I was on I think it was a podcast just before the game, and I offered one piece of advice to people watching. Or as earlier that day, was my one piece of advice was turn your TV down. If you're on mute, if you put your TV on mute, you'll still hear it, but turn it down. Because it was just, the atmosphere was just incredible. Absolutely amazing.
Mm. I mean, for me watching, I watched it a bit differently to most people. I watched that at 5:20 in the morning. I recorded it, and a quick tip for everyone: you can actually watch a game in full in an hour and a half, because I think it's 7:15 bus to work, and I was up at 5:20. Game starts at 5:30. Factor in amongst it, getting changed, having a shower, eating breakfast. Did all that within, well, from 5:30 until 7:10. So for those of you who are wondering, can I watch a game in full before work? Yes, you can. Just make sure after every play, fast forward. There's a master technique you can master. If you've had Sky or some sort of box for long enough, there's a way you can fast forward and skip all the pre sort of in between plays sort of stuff, and obviously half time and each quarter, etc. So there's a way to do it. It's a challenge, and sometimes you miss the occasional play, but you can do it. So those who are wondering how I can watch a game in full before work, there's your answer. Now, over to you, Ross. Now, the Buccaneers, it's a bit of a different story to Lions. It's a feel-good story for different reasons. I think everyone's recently seen the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl, but Baker Mayfield is, I think, the biggest feel-good story to go in sort of in comparison with the Lions. The fact that this is the guy who, a couple of years ago was used basically, was got rid of in order to get the Sean Watson. Then went to the Panthers, let go after them after not playing many games. Then went to the Rams, wasn't kept on. Joined the Buccaneers for, I think, something like $4 million 1-year deal. So really, a lot of thought he was the worst starting quarterback in the league. I never thought that, but definitely people thought he was in the bottom few. Really, reputation was at an all-time low. But for him to not only win a division, win a playoff game, but also see the Browns not win a playoff game, and the quarterback they traded all those draft picks for, got rid of Baker Mayfield for, saw him on the sidelines watching his team lose. The Panthers had the worst record in the league, and the Rams got knocked out first round. So Baker Mayfield to overcome all of that and defeat the NFC champions and the Eagles. Just how good of a story is that for NFL fans and for Bucs fans for you, Ross?
I think it's a great advertisement for throwing cash at a quarterback isn't a guarantee of success. And you've just said several names there. I think I get it's come in at $4 million. Everyone expected us to tank the season, go and get a good draft pick. But I think he's got the ability, and I think this was kind of his last chance. He's got a full season. He can really go and earn a big contract. And it's a great story. It's deserved, especially when you see what some of the guys in the league are on. He's kept himself, I say, healthy. He's been battered and beaten up this season, but he's still started every game. He's one of only about maybe 7 quarterbacks, I think, that have started every game. Could be wrong on that. So it's great. And I think he seems to really have a good bond with a lot of the guys in the team. Obviously, when he was at, I think it was Cleveland, there was a bit of talk about he's got a strange attitude, and he's got maybe a bit of an air about him. But it might have just been within the organisation because they were going to push him out. So it's for them to justify it. But I think he's come in, and I never see a bad word about him in terms of anyone that's ever bumped into him in Tampa, if I ever see on Twitter, or anyone saying, like his teammates, like they're always praising him. I think that says a lot. There's Dan Campbell was praising him, giving him big praise, talking about being back in college and stuff. So and how he'll always go throwing for the guys after practice and that. So I think it's a great story, and I'm hoping it will continue.
Yeah, I'm sort of two ways because I've said it in a few weeks. I want the Super Bowl to be a Texans-Lions Super Bowl because I love the idea of a Super Bowl when neither team's won one before. That's, for me, has always been something I've loved to see in any sport. I loved it when it was Swansea against Bradford in the League Cup final. I love the idea of that, and both teams haven't won a Super Bowl before, or that particular trophy in question. So I would also love Baker Mayfield. I think he's one of my favourite personalities in the league, and I think he does divide opinion. But I love his swagger on the field, but I think I think most people do want the Lions to win. I think the Buccaneers are the pantomime villains. They go out and win this game. But Baker Mayfield, yeah, you mentioned then what a season he's had. I mean, he's got 28 touchdowns, just 10 interceptions. That means he's got the 7th most touchdowns in the league this year and 9th most passing yards. But equally, Jared Goff is another great story. I mean, we talked about last week the fact that he was basically seen as Paul in order to get Matt Stafford. He was seen as just a side piece along the draft picks. The whole thing was with Bay in the Super Bowl loss against the Patriots. He was basically seen as a guy. I think he's almost seen what we see Dak and Tua as now, as players that can't do it when the chips are down and when it matters. And I think there's an element where you could think maybe he hasn't yet done it when you are losing point thing a lot. You win. It's best for him to have come when he's been winning games and in the lead, but equally to someone to for him to be seen as being almost kicked out of the Rams franchise by McVay to go to the Lions, not 3-13-1 in his first year. No one really thought much of it, and to do what he's done really this last year and a half and guide this Lions to their first playoff win in 30 odd years, and also to do against his former team. For you, Aaron, just how good was that to see as well for the Lions? Someone like Goff, who I think him and Cousins are probably the two nicest quarterbacks in the NFL. I think there's personality. I think there's not many more likable guys than Cousins and Goff. And I think for you, Aaron, just how good has it been to see him almost overcome the haters?
Yeah, great. Honestly, he's not just overcome haters around the league, he's overcome the haters in Detroit as well. There are a lot of people who, up until, I would say that there were a few people leaving midway through this season who were still waiting for Hendon Hooker to finally get to get his start and say, right, we'll ride this season out with Goff, and then next year it's Hendon Hooker time. So he's silenced haters, I think, it's weird for a quarterback to play and silence 32 teams worth of haters. It normally has to be 31. But he silenced 32 teams worth of haters. And I think, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And it says a lot to, I think, the character of a person who can still put, I guess, the weight of the world on the shoulders when no one seems to, everyone just kind of, as soon as you go to put the weight of the world on your shoulders, everyone turns around and goes, "Oh, this isn't going to end nice. This man's about to get crushed." And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you turn around and he's still got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and everyone's now sat there going, "Whoa, he can actually hold." Of course, he can. It's great. It is. It's amazing to see, and I think one of the storylines I think coming out of this game, though, which I kind of wanted to allude to, was. You look at Baker and you look at Jared Goff. Now, 2 years apart, that is 2 first overall picks that are no longer with their current teams, who are killing it when no one thought they would. And I think it is amazing for me to watch as a Lions fan, to watch my quarterback do it. I like Baker Mayfield. I liked him in Cleveland and I wanted him to go on and thought he would do well elsewhere. And I'm glad to see he's gone on to do elsewhere as well. Similarly, I just hope he doesn't do too well on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean,
I hope that's where it ends this season.
You look at even further back. I mean, it's only 5 years ago or so where the Bucs hadn't won a playoff game since they'd won a Super Bowl in the 2003 season, and the Lions hadn't won a playoff game in all his years. And who would have thought 5 years ago that you'd have both these teams fighting out to play in a conference championship game? I think it speaks volumes about, I think the Buccaneers obviously got the luxury of Tom Brady picking them, but the Lions have proved that, just that this is how you draft. I mean, the Rams were an example of, I think the Rams did it well. The fact that if you want to go all in on free agents and just give away draft picks, that's how you do it. And they obviously since then actually managed to rebuild pretty well. And the Lions, on the other hand, they've gone from the ground up. They managed to get pennies still fall to them. They drafted so well. I mean, the picks they got from the staff trade, they've used it on Sam Laporta, I believe. Jameer Gibbs was also part of that. It's an amazing. That is a big example of a win-win trade in the NFL, and I think the Lions have really proved that's how you draft, because some teams just can't do it, and they've proved that that's how you do it.
Well, on that as well, I want to refer back to a comment made last week on the podcast by Sam, when you were talking about Les Snead. Now, you do realise who comes off the Les Snead general manager tree, and that is our general manager, Brad Holmes. And you talk about the late round picks. Amazing. Like Gibbs, amazing. Laporta is doing things. I heard this quote before. I'm going to repeat it. Laporta is a rookie tight end doing things that a rookie tight end has no right to be doing. Those draft picks have been incredible. Penny Sewell, just insane. Aiden Hutchinson, incredible. But where Brad Holmes, I think, has really done well is the third, fourth rounds of the draft. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th round draft pick. Just incredible. Kirby Joseph has been pretty damn good for us. He was Aaron Rodgers' daddy for a little while before Aaron Rodgers had to move out. This is where I think I did just want to kind of revert back to that really quick and just say it was mentioned last week about Les Snead, and I think that's it. It says a lot about Les Snead that off his coaching tree comes Brad Holmes, and Brad Holmes is doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Kittle had only 500 yards in his first season, and Kelsey had not a single yard in his first year, and he'd gone on to be, I think personally, probably the two best tight ends in the league, and Kelsey certainly the best of all time. I want to ask you a couple of questions, Aaron, before we go on to more talk with Ross. First of all, how do you think Michael Brockers feels about seeing Goff playing so well?
I think that's up to Michael Brockers.
Fair enough. Also, how do you think TJ Hockenson feels watching this right
now? Again, that's for TJ Hockenson to feel how he feels. I don't want to make comments on. I'm like, it is what it is. At the end of the day, look, football's full of these. Football will always be full of these. Every season, people get traded, people move, and then the next season a team does well. Like there are hundreds of these that happen throughout here. I would hope that Michael Brockers and TJ Hockenson are both sat there. Look, maybe a little bit gutted, maybe crying into a glass of wine, but sat there on the millions thinking, it's the business. It is what it is.
It is crazy because in the fact that when Hockenson joined the Vikings from the Lions were either 1-6 or they only had one win that whole year, and the Vikings were on a rampage, and he was seen as maybe the final piece in the jigsaw that could help them go far. And what's happened since is the Vikings have lost in the playoffs, first round knockout. The Lions have gone on to win a division and win a playoff game. So Hockenson, it's almost a bit like the Michael Owen leaving Liverpool for Madrid. It could be, or look at Coutinho leaving Liverpool for Barcelona. It feels like it could be that a player that a great player, and he would obviously done just as much as what Laporta's done, if not maybe more. And at the same time, back then, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Who was to know back then that we'd see what was happening?
I just want to throw in Sterling leaving City for Chelsea.
Oh yeah, and obviously not his own fault, but Aguero as well. Leaves Man City, and obviously he retires from international football. What happens to Argentina? They win the World Cup. So there's a lot of them in all sport. I think in all team sports, there's always examples of it.
Every successful team, every team that's won a trophy, there's someone that left in a January transfer window, a summer transfer window, the one before. Someone left the team not that long ago. It's the business.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Ross. Now, another game where you are the underdogs. Now, you mentioned before that you are, was it 7.5 point underdogs or something like that? You are seen as a team probably least likely to win in the entire playoffs, in the entire league, I think, over both conferences. I think yourself are probably seen as the biggest underdogs. But do you think almost like it was against Buccaneers, like against the Eagles last week, that lack of pressure that you've got, which helped you probably beat the Eagles, do you think that'll help you again? The fact that really Baker, Mike Evans are going to this game with really no pressure at all.
Yeah, I think I think that's that. I like that. I think the guys will be able to go in and, they've exceeded all expectations by getting to the playoffs. They've exceeded them further by then beating the Eagles. And I think they just got to take this as it's a chance to right the wrongs of a game 3 months ago that, on paper they maybe would have thought they had a bit of an advantage due to their injuries for the Lions. But yeah, I think I would rather that than be like Dallas was, because Dallas were seen to be you're overwhelming favourites, you're going to absolutely annihilate the Packers, and then they were humbled. So I'd much rather be one touchdown underdogs than go in as any kind of clear favourite.
I agree. We mentioned this in our Packers Cowboys one last week where we had Ash in the NFL on, and we were talking about how there's many years where she's being a fan, 5, 6 years, so she's used to most of the time being a Packers fan as being one of the favourites in the conference. You've got Rodgers. You're seen as this team that you're expected to go to at least the divisional round, if not more. But now it's flip round where now no one thought they even make the playoffs. So really, in that Cowboys game, they were the underdogs. They're the underdogs again. It must almost, for me, be a better experience because myself, obviously, last year was nice because we were seen both. I think both is actually were seen as the underdogs, but both years injury hit. But a team like been a local fan for a long, long time, and Aaron, your team has been constantly the pain of my life, and it's that constant thing of your team expected to win. Every year, and if you don't win, it's seen as a bad season. If you get to a certain point where you're expecting to win it, like this season could be if Salah is injured for as long as they're saying, another one of those. Whereas if you go into a year where no one thinks you can do well and no one thinks you can win these games, like the Buccaneers last week, like the Packers last week, I think that just means a much more stress-free environment. Personally,
Yeah,
I think you can really, it's win-win. We were talking about it with the Texans that if they beat the Ravens, it's like one of the biggest shock results of the season and their first ever title game. If they lose, it's like, oh well, we lost to the number one seed, the AFC
yeah,
favourites. No one thought we'd make this stage or even win a division. So I think for you guys, it's that almost. I think that freedom that Baker will have. I mean, Baker's got nothing to lose. He's completely exceeded expectation this year. And I think Mike Evans, Godwin, they've won Super Bowls before. Vita Vea, Kate Otton's one that'll have another one that's got no experience. He'll be free as well. So I think you've got a mixture of youngsters that are going to be really completely free because they got no expectation. But you've also got players who've been there, done it, and won it, like Bayer,
yeah,
like Godwin, like Devontae David. I think there's so many players in this team, and I think it's quite a nice blend of things. I think you guys. I think you guys are the underdogs. I think that is true, but I think you guys must feel that you can probably really cause an upset, especially with the bookmakers' predictions at the moment.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I look at kind of some of the stats from the regular season and that, and I think a lot of Bucs fans and a lot of Lions will kind of know Dan Campbell, that they'll know this is how the Bucs will come to play. We're going to go there, and we're probably we'll run it if we have to, but it's going to be pass, because I think the way to give the Lions trouble is to target that secondary, try and get long balls up to Trey Palmer, to Mike Evans, decent mid-length passes to Godwin and K. Doughton. I look at the rushing. I think it could be a very low scoring, like a very low rushing game for both sides. We were, I think, top 5 for rushing defense in the regular season. I only allowed 42 last week, so it's going to be it's set up to be a very good game, and I think I'm very, very happy to be that 7-point underdog because it could make it a little bit sweeter if we did manage to pull something off.
Well, you mentioned it there. I mean, Buccaneers have the fifth best running defense when it comes to yards allowed per game. The Lions are second. So I think you look at Rashad White, you look at even with the double threat of Montgomery and Gibbs, I think it could be a game where both teams maybe have to go through the air. And I think you look at the passing defense. I mean, the Buccaneers have the fourth worst, and the Lions are where are they in this list? They're actually only two spots above that. So you have the fourth and sixth worst pass defenses and the second and fifth best run defenses. So I think that, yeah, I think if there's going to be stars for this game, you've got to look at the likes of Amari St. Brown, Mike Evans, Cade Otton, the Porter, Godwin. I think Josh Reynolds, I think is someone that was really good last week. And I think another massive from home is bringing in Goff's mate from LA. I think that all round, I think it's going to be, I think this game probably could be the most one-sided affair, but I do think it could be one of the more high scoring because I think both teams are just going to pass. And I think that, it's going to be, I think, a really exciting game. And I'm really intrigued to know how it goes. But yeah, that is where we will go into our predictions. So, of course, we have done this for all at once so far in Bills, Chiefs, and the Texans against the Ravens. So now it's turn of the Lions against the Bucs. Go to you first, Aaron. Who's winning the game, and what's the score going to be?
Oh, yeah, probably throw the gauntlet at me there, making me go first. Thanks. I think it will be one of those where I don't think anyone. Again, similar to Lions Rams, you don't quite know what's going to happen. It's a bit of anything. Obviously, I'm a bit more nervous about this one, I guess, as well, because you don't know what you're going to get. We've played the Bucs already this year, and it was a damn tough game that we shouldn't have won probably by 2 scores. This is a different Bucs team than the one we faced as well in week 6. Very different Bucs team. But I do think that this is where Ben Johnson is going to really show whether he's worth it, like he's truly worth a head coaching job or not. It's going to be a game of who plays the, like, I think it's going to come down to a game of Ben Johnson, because it's not going to come down to a game of Aaron Glenn marking up against Mike Evans. So I do think we'll win. I'm going to say it's a 31-24. Again, a 1-score game, but 31-24.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's probably a reason why the Seahawks haven't made a coaching decision yet, and I think other teams as well, like Washington. And I think there's probably Ben Johnson in mind, or maybe a few people who are still involved in the playoffs. I think they're probably waiting for him to be whoever looking for in the playoffs left to be done in the playoffs. I think Ben Johnson. I'll be surprised if he stays on. I think he should stay on because I think he's got a good thing going there. And we see a lot of coordinators actually go to different teams as head coaches, and they never really recover. I mean, Matt Patricia was seen as a great coordinator, and he went to the Lions. A name that you hate, Aaron, but he went to you guys, stuck the place out, and hasn't really been the same since. So I think there's definitely got to be careful. I think the enemy's done it for years as a coordinator, and I think he had a long time, and I think that worked out well. So I think for you guys, you've got to hope he stays, but you can't also begrudge him if he does go.
Oh no, not at all. I just beg that he does stay. I'm very aware of the fact that I think a lot of Lions fans are coming to terms with the fact that he'll be gone, and it's going to be heartbreaking. But it's the what would you call it? It's that kind of the pitfalls of success and doing well.
Yeah, and that's why almost helps, I think, a little bit with parity. The fact that you see the Eagles last year, they had Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, both of them move on to be head coaches, and I think that's been a big part of their downfall and their collapse this season. Now, Ross, over to you. Who is winning the game, and what's the score going to be?
I called us against the Eagles. I was very confident the whole week. I called it on the Gridiron Crew podcast. I said we'll win it. I still think we'll win it. I think we'll beat the Lions. I think we'll go there. We'll be the pantomime villain. We'll dash their hopes.
Oh,
terms of
our hopes are
scoring-
way too cemented now. You cannot dash hopes here. We've got above and beyond. There's no hopes to dash.
Oh, listen, you're happy, but if you're happy to bow out now and we can continue, that's absolutely fine. I'll take that any day. I think score-wise, it could be a kind of it could be a field goal affair. I think there's a good chance it comes down to field goals, perhaps a missed field goal. I'm going to say 27 to 24 to Tampa.
Interesting. So now time for me. As we've done all the podcasts, it's always tends to be the fan of that team picks their team, fan of that team picks their team, and it's often down to me as a neutral to have the most deciding vote. I think this is the easiest to call. I'm going for the Lions. I think I do think the Bucs will cause a problem. I think the Bucs will make it hard, but I do think this will be the biggest gap in victory of all 4 games. So I'm going to go for a 20-10 win for the Bucs. So sorry, for the Lions.
We said it. Too late. Can't take it back.
Well, I think either way, I've got it covered. I can edit it out, so I can say either way. I said the Bucs win, or I said the Lions win. I think either way, I look like a genius. So,
Because it's editor's choice here.
Exactly, yeah.
I will say this: I was watching an interview that was put out earlier with Lions of social media content. Tim Twentyman, senior writer, and all that sort of stuff for the Lions, was on a call and put out a video today with Scott Smith, the senior writer for the Buccaneers, and all the writers know each other and stuff like that from the websites. Baker Mayfield has already texted friends in LA to ask them what the noise was like and any recommendations they had for getting around the noise in the stadium.
Interesting. I suppose you playing in a dome is there's an advantage there with that noise that it won't be like at Raymond James. It's not as loud. It's maybe not as passionate a diehard fan base.
I don't know how well you've watched the actual game, but you see how many a lot of it came down to the Rams blowing 2 timeouts early because they couldn't hear. Stafford, the amount of times tapping his helmet saying, I can't hear anything. So I think it's a case of knowing your plays before you get out on the field and having that and hopefully the Lions fans remember to be loud while they're in the huddle, not when they all already know the play. But I just thought that was an interesting little fact that I learned today, that Baker Mayfield's already calling in favors from LA friends to learn how to deal with the noise.
Interesting stuff. That's really interesting. I think that's it's got a perfect chance to do it. I mean, he's someone who's played there just over 2 years ago now. He played there, so for me, just over a year ago, actually, to be fair to him. So, yeah, that should be hopefully for him a helping factor. But that is where we'll end the podcast. Our 3rd of 4 divisional round previews. Of course, I've been, as ever, your host, Andy Davis. First of all, thank you to both our guests for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So this game is going to be on at 8 p.m. on Sunday for UK fans, which is going to be about 3 p.m. Eastern for those watching in America. Will the Lions roar into the NFC title game, or will the Buccaneers sail into their place with 1 game for Vegas? This has been the Across the Pod podcast. This has been Ross Moynihan. This has been Aaron Fletcher, and we will see you guys next time.